Hi guys, it's Amber from Amber Eats Books, and I'm here today to do the wrap-up video for Paper Butterflies by Lisa Heathfield. This was our April pick for #onthebooktubeshelf. Please forgive my lighting today. It is so dark and gloomy in my house, I just can't get any better lighting. I tried a couple different areas and it didn't work. Anyway, this book was a super emotional read for me. I have been watching all of the update videos for the last few weeks, and every time someone would come on, they would say, this is such a frustrating book, and I could completely understand where they were coming from. This poor girl, June, whose mother has passed away and who's now living with her father, stepmother, and stepsister, is being abused by the stepmother, Kathryn, and the stepsister, Megan. She is being overfed, she's being sometimes drowned and choked, and there's just so many instances of just horrific abuse. I almost didn't want to continue reading, but I did, because it also has this element in it where you don't want to read it, but you also can't put it down. So as you follow her story, you find out she's also being bullied at school. No one seems to be able to see any of this going on. June wants to tell people, but then she ends up getting sometimes too scared, or she does end up at some point in the book telling her father, and the father just kind of brushes her off, doesn't believe her. So from a lot of the book, you're just feeling this frustration because you just want something to go well for June. You just want something to happen for her where she can get a happy ending. A small glimpse of happiness that you do see for her is when she meets this boy, Blister. They become fast friends and eventually become each other's first love. Those moments were beautiful, and I was so happy that she could find even the small amount of happiness during this horrific time in her life. What happens, though, in the book, as you guys have probably know since you've been following along, is that she ends up committing a crime. One day she returns home where she has kept this box of things that are most precious to her in the entire world. Some of them are these paper butterflies that Blister has made her, amongst other things. And she finds that someone has completely destroyed them. This is kind of the breaking point for June. She just wants something to happen now where she can feel free. So she gets angry, she gets like filled with revenge, and she decides she's going to burn some things that were precious to Kathleen and Megan. So she starts this fire, and the fire just kind of grows out of control. She didn't mean for it to happen, but it grows out of control, and it ends up killing her father and Kathleen, her stepmother, and it injures Megan severely. So that's the before parts in this book. Then there's some after parts. These after parts are where she is now currently sitting in jail. She is talking to other people about what has happened to her in her childhood. She is also sentenced to death. So she's sitting pretty much on death row waiting for her inevitable demise, really. She has been appealing and nothing seems to be going well for her, and that's just the theme of the book. Nothing ever goes well for June. Finally, at the end, when it's the day of her execution, she's about ready to be put to death, and she gets a stay of execution, so it ends up not happening, and we're kind of just left on this little hopeful note. That would be my only gripe about the book, is that the ending, I just wanted to know a little more, like, does June really get a happy ending? Which we don't know. It's kind of left up to us to imagine what that would have been. So that's the summary as best as I can do it. If you guys have been following along, you will have heard more details and more in-depth things. I will link all of the videos that have been posted down below. I will say, for me, this was such an emotional read because it hit very close to home. As I was watching many of the ladies do their updates, they were just saying how frustrated they were that June would not tell anyone what was going on. While I shared in some of that frustration, I also understood June, because just as Kristan shared, she had an experience where she was kind of in this situation. I also had an experience where I was in this situation, and unlike Kristan's video, I didn't tell anyone for quite a long time, and when I finally did, just kind of like June's experience, no one believed me. this went on for several years. This was probably 7 years worth of something happening. I'm not going to go into details just because I don't feel comfortable sharing that. But yeah, it was like 7 years, and there were many times where I wanted to tell someone something, and the person that had been perpetrating this abuse just had me so scared of the consequences that I didn't. So when everyone was kind of saying how frustrated they were with her, that she wouldn't tell anyone, I could see both sides of that situation. I could feel that frustration because now as an adult looking back on my childhood, I was like, why didn't I tell anyone sooner? Why didn't I say something to someone before I did? And I can't really give you guys more of an explanation than it's just fear. You just get afraid of the consequences. Yes, you think maybe it will help, but then there's that chance that it won't help anything. And that is what I ended up having to deal with. I ended up telling a very close friend, and she went and told her parents, who contacted my father and my stepmother. And when they were told, they, obviously questioned me and wanted to know if it was true. And I said yes. And then nothing happened. Nothing changed. They said to me, well, we just couldn't be certain. We didn't want to ruin someone's life over it. Even though my life was the life that was being ruined, they didn't want to ruin the other person's life, the adult's life. So I felt very helpless. I felt very much like it took a lot out of me to finally tell somebody something, and then they didn't do anything about it. And I just have to tell you that there's a part in this book where I think she was talking to maybe the Reverend, and the Reverend says something to the effect that basically you don't have any belief in people anymore. And I struggled with that for a very long time afterwards. They never told my mother, who I actually lived with. Obviously my parents were divorced. They never told my mother, so I finally got up the courage after everything had stopped, because I had made it stop myself. And when I finally got the courage to tell my mother that it had gone on and it had happened, she didn't believe me either. It's just very hard as a child, no matter the age. When I first told, I think I was around 12 or 13. And then when I told my mother, I was around 16. And it's just very hard not to be believed by the people that are supposed to be protecting you. And I felt like that's how June must have felt when she finally had that courage to tell her father, this is what's happening to me. And he just says, yeah, okay, I don't believe you, whatever. And it continues. So yes, this was such an emotional book for me. I felt like I could identify with her so much. It also made me so thankful now as a parent to 3 kids that they don't have to grow up that way. I am so thankful that even though I went through all the crap that I did as a child, that I could now turn around and be a much better parent to my children. And if they ever come to me and ever say anything, I'm there for them, and I will believe them, and I will do something about it. No matter their age, I don't care if they're 55 and come and tell me, I will do something about it. And it was just so hard to read this book. As many of you watched during all of our updates, we kind of were all a little at a loss for words on what to say about the book, because it was just such an emotional journey. Anyway, I think that is enough for now. I ended up loving this book. I really did. I gave it 5 stars. I was in tears at the end of it. I really, really felt for the character. I will definitely check out more books by Lisa Heathfield, though, because I did end up enjoying the writing. There weren't a ton of quotable parts, but there were a couple lines that I underlined. One of them was, I imagine plucking the butterflies out of my belly and putting them in a box by my bed. I'd like to watch their colors, to see their wings beating against the glass. Just a small little snippet of when she was nervous, how her stomach felt like butterflies in her stomach and how she'd want to take them out. I just thought that was kind of beautiful. Let me see if I can find anything else I might have underlined. But that was definitely my favorite line of all. Oh, this was one. This was the part I was just talking about earlier. It said, "It wasn't about courage. You had that. It was about opportunity and faith in human nature. Yet your faith in that was being destroyed. Never blame yourself for that, June. You were just a little girl." So there was definitely a few quotable moments in this book, but overall I did enjoy the writing. It wasn't super flowery or descriptive. It was just enough for you to feel like you were in this person's shoes, really. So I really am glad that I read this, but I am so totally ready for a more lighthearted read coming up in May. That is going to be If You Only Knew by Kristan Higgins. I'm going to make a small announcement video probably following this one, just to let you guys know about that and when we're reading it and whatnot. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me. I'm sorry I got a little sad in this video, but it was just such an emotional book and it hit so close to home that it was too hard not to just share a snippet of my story. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great week and happy reading.